Hi students, my name is Farmer Julia. If you've never met me before, I'm one of the adults who helps kind of take care of the CVG Garden and helps bring students out here to learn. I just wanted to film a little video to give you a tour of your garden to see how it's kind of been changing and growing since you've been away from school. And also to let you know that I miss you, and the other garden teachers really miss seeing you. It's been kind of tough to not get to hang out with you out in the garden, and we're really looking forward to the time when we can do that together again. But until that time comes, your garden is still here. It's still growing. There are lots of plants that come back year after year with us not even replanting them, like all these sunflowers. And our fruit trees, are going to be here for many, many years. So the garden's here waiting for us, and so let's go do a little tour around and see what we can see.
Hi friends, this is Miss D from CVG Garden. I hope you're all doing well. I just wanted to talk to you for a minute about a fruit tree that we have here at the CVG Garden. This fruit tree has a type of fruit on it called a fig, and you can see several of them growing here. This tree is a really good example of what happens when you are very determined in life and you just don't give up. What I mean by that is that we planted this tree almost 7 years ago, and someone came by and unfortunately they pulled it right out of the ground, pulled it out and threw it in the parking lot. Well, I came by to work in the garden and found it, planted it back in the ground and gave it lots of water and sunshine, and it kept growing. Well, then a year later I came by and someone had broken the tree in half, snapped it. And little trees can't die when they get broken like that. They can't live. So I cut off the broken part, mended it, gave it some nutrition, and it continued to grow. And so this little tree is determined, and it would not give up. That's what happens when we keep on trying and we don't give up. You grow and grow and grow, and look how much fruit it's bearing.
So amazing.
This is delicious fruit. This will feed a lot of people.
So great.
So I love this little tree.
All right, I wanted to put the spotlight on this beautiful kale plant. It's got this nice purple and green color, and one of my favorite things about kale is that it has this special wax that coats the leaves that makes it waterproof, and you can kind of see how when it rains the water droplets collect on there, and I just think that's one of my favorite things to notice in the garden when I come in the mornings or after it's been raining. Isn't that fun? Sometimes I'd want to just poke them and make them dance everywhere, but other times it's kind of fun to just leave them there and really observe what those droplets of water do.
Looking for fruit and vegetables that are ready to harvest is like going on a treasure hunt.
Mm-hmm.
So when we walk around in the garden today, we find several different things ready to eat. Look right here. Can you see this vegetable? Does anybody recognize what that is? These are called tomatoes, and they grow on a plant that has runners. And for this variety, when it's red, it's ready to harvest. You could slice that and eat it on a sandwich or turn it into a sauce for spaghetti or chili. Tomatoes are fantastic. And then let's keep up our hunt and see what's right over here. Do you see this vine that's growing? This one is called Nasturtiums. And did you know, even though it's a flower that people plant to look pretty in the garden, you also can eat it. These flowers are wonderful in a salad. They have a slightly peppery taste. Gives it a little kick, but not too strong. It's delicious. You can also eat the young tender leaves on the nasturtium. Some people like to chop that up and put it in a salad or use it to make pesto. More treasure in our garden.
This is one of our apple trees, and I wanted to show you quickly like a good tip for figuring out if an apple is ripe or not. So sometimes if we just like go and rip it off. But if it's not ready and we bite into it, it doesn't taste good, and then it's actually not really gonna ripen up much more. So a good way to tell without taking it off the tree is to actually just gently spin the apple a 1/4 turn. Just like that. And if it snaps off, that means it's ready. So let me try the other one. Oh, see, that one came right off. So the stem broke off, telling me that this apple is ready to eat.
These bushes here are known as raspberries, and you can see they grow on long stems that are called canes. And this, the green one, is new growth. You can see over here the brown one with no leaves on it. That's a good example of how there's a time and season for everything. The older one is from last year. That one's ready to be cut back. This one is still producing. And raspberries are one of the coolest plants around because they produce a crop 2 times a year. Once in the spring and then again in late summer, early fall. And what kind of crop do they produce? Let's see if you recognize it. Can you see right in here? Ooh. Oh, look at that. Our super sweet and delicious fruit. And raspberries come in more than one variety. This one is a red raspberry. Very sweet. These are ready to pick and eat, which I think I'll do in just a moment. And there's another variety right here. Look at this one. Ooh. These are called golden raspberries. Also sweet and delicious. So this plant is called the raspberry plant. It's one of our favorites in the garden, and I bet if you try it, it'll be one of your favorites too. Bye guys.
If you've been in the garden before, maybe you've learned about rhubarb, but for those of you who this plant is sort of new to you, the part of the rhubarb that we eat is actually this nice stem, and you see how it's kind of turning pink at the bottom. Sometimes the stem turns completely pink. So we eat that stem and it's kind of sour, sort of tastes like sour apples or something, but a lot of people like the taste of it. And we actually can't eat these leaves. If we were to eat them, they would kind of give us a stomachache. So this is a good example of a plant that we always make sure we know what part of the plant we should eat, and we always wait to be invited to eat something before we taste it in the gardens. There's actually a friend kind of hanging out on the rhubarb. Look at that big grasshopper. Hi, buddy. Looks like it's just resting there. It's still kind of chilly this morning, so maybe he's just waking up slowly, having a nice slow morning. Good morning.
Hi students. I wanted to point out to you these beautiful plants that are growing so abundantly in our garden. Some plants that we grow are not fruits or vegetables. They're called herbs. And herbs are often used either to add seasoning and flavor to our food, or they're used to make medicine. Right here where I'm standing, we can see a great example. We have rosemary growing here. This is a woody shrub. Do you see how it grows almost like a bush? And it's very fragrant. You can kind of rub your hand over it and then smell it, and it smells wonderful. Rosemary is great chopped up and then used to cook either savory vegetables, chicken or beef. Wonderful herb to use in the garden. And rosemary is often combined with sage. That's this plant here with slightly fuzzy leaves. It also grows like a small bush. And the sage, you can touch it and smell as well. The herbs release essential oils, volatile oils that give us their scent. Sage is also chopped up and used usually for meat dishes, things like sausage. Down here, we have 2 different examples of another herb. Right over here, this one is called thyme. Thyme is used to flavor, again, meats, vegetables. You could put that on a zucchini or mushrooms or pizza even. Absolutely delicious. The one to my right, your left, is used for seasoning food. This one is also a thyme. So here's an example of 2 different varieties of one plant. This one is more for looks and ground cover. It spreads and travels and propagates itself, meaning it reproduces itself. This one is more for looking pretty and holding the soil in place. So I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to herbs. These are some of the many varieties of herbs we grow at CVG Garden. Take care.
We just noticed this super exciting plant growing in the garden. This is some sort of pumpkin or squash. I don't actually remember planting this. So it may have grown from a seed that was left here in years past, or maybe a bird came and dropped a seed over here, but either way, it's really exciting. Look at how beautiful those pumpkins are. And if we actually look at the rest of the plant, it kind of tells us a story of how this pumpkin grew up. So if we look over here, in this part of the plant, you see it's got some little baby blossoms that aren't quite opened up yet. And then it has some nice, beautiful, big orange ones. Now, the next kind of part in the process is a bee or some other kind of pollinator, a creature that goes in there and sort of moves the pollen around. Will come into that flower and it'll knock some of the pollen around, and that actually starts the process for that flower to start turning into a fruit. You can see where that's happening right there. And if you look over here, there's a little tiny fruit that's starting to form, and you can see it used to have the end of that flower on there, and so it broke off, and then it's going to develop and grow even bigger and grow some seeds inside there. And then, you know, once the winter comes, it'll probably start to rot, or someone will eat it, and then it will have some seeds left over to start the cycle all over again.
Hi friends, this is Miss D, one of the volunteers here at CVG Gardens. I've been touring around with Farmer Julia, and we have had such a good time sharing with you the plants that are growing here. I wanted to take a moment and show you a very special plant to CVG. As you know, CVG's mascot is the suns, CVG suns, and this plant is called a sunflower because its beautiful blooms are often said to look like a golden sun with the rays of the sun. And CVG is known for having a lot of beautiful, tall, healthy sunflowers growing in the garden here. One thing that's special about the sunflowers is that even though it's a very large plant, look at this, it's a giant, taller than I am. It starts out as a tiny seed, and it's a good example of how if you give a plant what it needs, the right sun, the right water, and nutrients in the soil to grow, that tiny seed in one season can grow into this beautiful, majestic plant that holds up its face to the sun every day. Thanks so much for touring the garden with us. And if you get a chance, stop by and check out your beautiful sunflowers.